we now have to make a choice. And that is, if we're no longer going to be spending $150 per month for a cable package, where are we now going to spend our money? So we can't keep demanding, oh, we want to see more news and more this and more that. I saw a bunch of people complaining about the commercial load on my Instagram page at BET. We only got too many commercials. Y'all, guess what? BET makes less in ad revenue today than they did 5 years ago. Speaking of ad revenue, if you pull that New York Times story up when BET was sold, in that story from 2001, it said that black-owned media was getting 1% of the advertising dollars. I need y'all to hear what I just said. In the
How you doing? My name is Santonio. My page is Unapologetically Black. I ask that you like and subscribe to the page. Now, the real reason why it was not profitable for Tyler Perry to purchase BET at $3 billion is because BET has a black audience. Advertisers pay content with a black audience less money. Black people really have two choices to make. We have to learn to be activists with everything we do in order to fight this white supremacy. We have to be activists with our spending dollar. We have to be activists with what we view on television. We have to be activists in the black community, what we listen to on the radio. We have to make conscious decisions about everything we choose to empower within our community. You empower it by giving it energy.
one story in the New York Times about BET being sold to Viacom. That story said black-owned media was receiving, get this, was receiving 1% of all advertising dollars. This is 2023. It is 2 years later. We're at, right now, between 1 and 2%. So if you want to understand also why BET is less valuable, it's because BET has getting a short shrift because they have black consumers.
What this should allow black people to understand is that money will not allow you to transcend race. Even your worst as a black man or a black woman. Bob Johnson became a billionaire, but still his company was being discriminated against and was being devalued based off who he was and off of his audience. This is why you're not going to be able to transcend past your race, and it is imperative that you build your people. This is why nation building is more important than individual wealth. See, now is what is the incentive for black Americans to come to his aid and begin to boycott these companies that refuse to advertise on his channel if he's not using his resources to build a ladder so that more of us can propel. This is what black people have to understand, that when you try to come up and leave your people behind, white people will always remind you of who you is, and you will always have to resort back to your people to gain their support in order to combat their racism and the methods they use to hinder your progress. But black people are sick of this if you're not in our community helping us build.
Look at Brett Pulley's book, The $1 Billion Bet, the unauthorized biography of Bob Johnson and BET. In that particular book, he writes that when Mel Karmazin, who was the CEO of Viacom, and Sumner Redstone, who owned Viacom, when they looked at BET, they said that BET was getting $1,500 for a 30-second ad, the same ad MTV was getting for $8,000. Let me repeat what I just said. BET was getting $1,500 for a 30-second ad that MTV was getting $8,000 for an ad. Let me go to magazines. Ebony Magazine was getting $20,000 for a full-page ad that Esquire Magazine was getting $200,000 for. So, the advertising industry has said, black people, you are less than white people, because we are going to spend less money on you to attract you than we are the white consumer.
Black people have to take responsibility for the things that we empower. I mean, empowered by the things that we give energy to by our usage, meaning the television stations we watch, the cable channel, the cable programs we pay for. We gotta that includes the products that are advertised on television. We have to start to hold these people accountable for these actions if you want a great environment conducive for your children to actually be able to progress at their full potential. That environment have to be created. It doesn't happen overnight. Just the same as you benefited from the civil rights movement, right? But things have worsened. You have to take accountability for what you did or did not do to shape the environment that your children will grow up in. Black people have to take some responsibility for doing nothing. When you look at what happened with the Bud Light boycott from the white people just because he gave the transgender their special bottle, and you see the response they got, and they duplicated the boycott process from what we did during the civil rights movement, but they've made boycott illegal. So now you have just become passive and accept any treatment by anybody and wonder why your condition is worsening as a people and your children are doing worse off than you, because you empower people who work continuously to discriminate against you and your entire race. But for some reason, you have this illusion that your child is going to be different. Black people, we have to understand, we have to take responsibility for the things that we empower and give energy to. And that includes the products that are advertised on television that devalues you just because of who you are. See, you cannot allow these things to be acceptable and then tell your children you can be anything you can be, and you empower people who work continuously to oppress your children because you did not create or promote an environment where their progress would be even possible. At some point, you have to take condition for what you did do and didn't do to help improve the condition that your children will grow up into, just the same as your parents need to take responsibility for what they did or didn't do politically or actively for the condition that you are currently in. That happens with action. Take responsibility as a people and take accountability for the energy that you put into the air. Take responsibility for the things you promote, you spend your money on, all that. Be active in removing white supremacy from your life.
Tanking sales by more than 28% over the last 4 weeks. Well, the beer brand's partnership with a transgender influence that sparked that culture war, it can be felt across the country, and especially in Nashville, where the company is facing backlash from both sides. CNN's Ryan Young reports.
A culture war is brewing over Bud Light, dividing beer drinkers as much as the country is itself.
Unlike anything I'd ever seen.
I don't give a if you drink Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, it doesn't matter.
If you don't like what somebody's selling, just don't go there. Stop being butthurt about everything that goes on in the world.
I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood.
The brouhaha stems from Bud Light's short-lived partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney.
Love ya!
The fury from the right, enough to dethrone Bud Light as the best-selling beer in America for the first time in 2 decades. The controversy has taken center stage in Nashville, where 2 of country music's biggest stars, Garth Brooks and Kid Rock, have bars just steps away from each other on Broadway.
What's fascinating to me is that right here on Broadway in Nashville, Tennessee, the culture wars have come down to 2 big personalities in this town. It illustrates the way the whole country is responding to the transgender acceptance.
Garth Brooks says he plans to carry the beer at his yet-to-open bar.
I'm a bar owner now. Are we going to have the most popular beers in the thing? Yes. I get it. Everybody's got their opinions. But inclusiveness is always going to be me.
A block down Broadway, Kid Rock made his feelings known when he posted this video shooting up cases of Bud Light. Despite the online bravado and talk of a boycott, Bud Light was available when CNN stopped in recently. It is not clear if the ban had been lifted or if there ever had been one to begin with. Nashville marketing executive Bill Fletcher says the whole country seems to be engaging in the same heated conversation.
With Kid Rock, you have this dark, angry.
Stand for nothing, fall for anything. These Europeans had no real cause for their boycott. They boycotted Budweiser, regardless or at the expense of American jobs over Budweiser giving a transgender guy a bottle. Stupid shit. However, black people, we allow white people to rob your community out of money, devalue you, and you still run to the store and purchase their products. I don't care what it is. Oh, I just love me some Dove. Oh, I just gotta have Heinz. You're not willing to make any sacrifices in order to lift white supremacy. You're not opposing white supremacy in any manner. This is why it is effective on all levels when it comes to dealing with black people, regardless of your wealth status. And the seller BET should just be able to expose that to black people.
If you go back to that New York Times article, in the article, Mel Karmazin was quoted as saying, we think that we now can derive more value out of BET because we can sell BET spots at a higher price than they were being sold independently. Run the numbers. They are still black, and they still aren't getting the same value. So what I want us to do is to understand why the business of the business matters. I want us to understand it's not as easy. People say, well, Tyler should just get with Oprah and launch a network. Oprah launched a network with Discovery. It was 50-50. They spent $381 million their first year. Guess what? Oprah has now sold her equity stake in OWN, and the Warner Discovery owns all of it. I think she maybe kept 5%. Bottom line is they own 95% of it. And so understand, oh, Magic launched a network. Nah, no, he didn't. Magic don't own Aspire. Okay, white-owned company owns Aspire. Bounce was never black-owned. You had a small percentage of black people who owned Bounce. It was a white guy who owned it, and he sold them to Scripps. And so really, when you talk about who's black out there who owns a network, yeah, you got TV One, okay, or a publicly traded company. You got Didi with Revolt. But the reality is you do not have, you got the Africa Channel. Of course, you got Byron Allen on his companies, but you do not have as many as people think. So I need our people to understand when we're out here just throwing stuff out and just saying, do this and do that, and we need this. But every black person who says we need this, my question to you is, will you support it? Because see, here's what